Hey folks, this is Michael Rosso, Film Photography Podcast. Today I'm looking at the Keystone 8mm Capri K25 camera. This is a very small 8mm camera that takes a double-8 film. I'm going to go through all of the functions on the camera. This video doesn't take the place of having a camera manual, but I will give you an overview of the whole camera. But first, let's take a look at a roll of Cine 8 black and white 40 ISO reversal film shot in this camera.
How you doing? How you doing? A damn fine cup of coffee.
We'll start on the back. Here's your eyepiece. You would look through here. You're not actually looking through your lens with these cameras. You're just looking through an eyepiece, and your lens is separate. On the side of the camera is a crank. This camera has no batteries. It's powered only by cranking. Here is your shutter button. Here is your footage counter, which we can't really see, but that will move from 25 feet down to 0. On the front of the camera we have our lens, which is a D-mount lens. This is the lens that came with the camera. The widest aperture is f2.5 and it goes all the way down to f22. Here's a hole that you could attach a tripod to this camera, and frequently on my cameras I write cheat sheets, and for this particular camera the shutter speed is 1/30th of a second. That's vital information for when you're using a light meter to figure out how to set your f-stop. On the other side of the camera is the film compartment. A lot of vintage cameras come with this chart that gives you recommendations for setting your f-stop, and the best thing to do is ignore that. No, seriously, I'm being very dramatic, but completely ignore that. This chart was designed for older films that no longer exist. Back in the 1950s and early 1960s, film ISOs, or in this case they're called ASA, were much lower. So please ignore these charts on any vintage camera that you may pick up. And here is the film compartment. When you pick up a vintage camera, make sure there's a take-up spool. If you don't have a take-up spool, we do sell them in the Film Photography Project online store. So the thing to know, and the most important thing regarding this, is the fact that this takes double-8 film. These cameras cannot take Super 8 film or 16mm film. It has to be double-8 film, and double-8 film is 16mm in width. That's because when you're shooting this in this camera, the first pass, you shoot this film twice. The first pass you will be exposing one side of the film, and then when you reload your film, you will be exposing the other side of the film. So you have two images. You will have two images side by side on your developed film. And what happens in the lab or in the scan is that those two images are separated to create 50 feet of film footage from your 25-foot roll. Most cameras, loading is very similar. For this particular camera, there is a film gate right there. That's where the film goes, behind the film gate. And the film will go in only one way, and the film emulsion side, which is the dull side, always faces the lens, and the film base side, also known as the shiny side, will not face the lens. Always. Some rolls have side numbers on it. Put your roll here. Only goes on one way. As you can see, film goes behind the lens. Some cameras have guides. This one does not. You have to make sure that the film is placed behind the lens and that it goes in there smoothly. And you can tell by running your camera. By the way, this has to be done either in complete darkness or very dim light. Attach your film to the take-up. Now, you may be tempted to buy a roll of film on eBay, like a roll of old Kodachrome. Kodachrome cannot be developed in 2020 and beyond, so the only reason to buy a roll of Kodachrome on eBay would be to test your film, to, you know, test loading and unloading your film. Here I loaded the camera. It's coming off the spool, emulsion side, the dull side facing the lens, and it's on a take-up spool. Let's see how I did. Pretty good. So what you will do is you will shoot the entire side one of your film. Let's do that. I just finished rolling out side one. If you're out and about shooting, you will need to duck into either a dark room, a darker room, a dim room, under a tree, out of direct sunlight when changing your roll. Because although your film is on what's known as daylight spools, you will expose some of it. Now, sometimes your film will roll out and be completely on this roll. Other times there'll be just a little remnant left inside your gate. So right now we shot side one, which means that the film is now on the take-up side, and what will happen is you will take your roll out of your camera and swap it. Here was your original camera roll, and we're going to flip it over, put it over here. And here was the take-up spool, now filled with film. You flip it, and once again, these... and once again, it only goes on one way, on the post one way, and the film emulsion, the dull side, will face your lens. So you put this into your camera. I mean, you load it the exact same way that you loaded your first roll. Some cameras load easier than others. This one you have to actually place the film behind the lens, which I just did. Take up spool. This is the original camera roll that had your full film on it. Okay. Good. Side two. Let's see how we did. Okay, so here's your take-up spool that came with your camera. Now feeding side two of the film into your camera roll, which is now empty. So you will shoot side two, and all the film will go back to the original spool where your film was loaded on. Close up your camera, and now you will go shoot side two.
Now, Harry, don't hurt yourself.
Okay, just shot side two. Camera roll is done. So what you wind up with is your roll of film is full once again with film, and you will send this off to the lab or the Film Photography Project, who offers developing and scanning of your film. And then once that's done, look what you're left with. Your camera roll always stays with your camera, very important. So now you're all set for your next. Thank you for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you soon.
Bleh.